Hi, and welcome to another Blythe crafting video. I'm Beth Ramsden. This week, I wanted to join in with the first of the themed Monthly Dolly YouTuber Challenge collaboration videos. They're created by Tammy over at Peacecraft Love Dolls. You'll find all the other collaborators' links down in the description, so please go and check them out later. Every month, there will be a theme to create a video for. This month's theme is Mardi Gras, also known as Fat Tuesday in France, or both Shrove Tuesday and Pancake Day here in the UK. When I think of the American celebration of Mardi Gras, I think of carnival-style festival celebrations with lots of elaborate and colourful costumes, and the colour palette seems to be purple, gold and green. You'll see me sketching out my ideas here, and you'll have seen the thumbnail, so you know that I want to make a corset. I am pretty much self-taught as a seamstress. I started making corsets when I was at art school, and I was nicknamed the Corset Queen. I've never made a proper doll-sized one though, so I wanted to try it out. I'm sketching out the ideas for how to place the colours, whether I want straps or lacy embellishments, and also the layout of the laces at the back. Here's my model. She has a jointed body with a larger sized bust. I've made some notes here to help explain how I've drafted my pattern pieces. First, I took the bust, waist and hip circumference measurements. Then the lengths that I want the front, back and sides of the corset to be. I measured the doll to help with this. Then I decide how many panels I want to sew together to make up the corset. I've decided on 4 per half, so 8 altogether. Next, I half each of the bust, waist and hip measurements, as I only need to draw out 1/2 of the corset, and then mirror it for the other side. I grab my calculator and start dividing up the measurements between the panels, checking each time that the width of each panel will add up to the number here on the right. I've sketched out the rough shapes that I expect the panels to be, but this comes from many years of experience. I'm plotting out the bust, waist and hips here. Finally, I mark out 3 parallel horizontal lines, one for the top of the corset, marked bust, one for the waist and one for the hips. These lines are the same distance apart as they are on the doll. So keeping the centre back and the centre front as straight vertical lines, I've then sketched and measured and refined each of the pattern pieces to scale, to where you see it now. Now I need to test fit the pattern pieces and refine them later. I cut them out from thin card, then using tiny pieces of masking tape, I join the pattern pieces to form 1/2 of the corset. There's no seam allowance added in yet, and if any edges don't align, I can trim them with scissors easily. Now I can transfer my pattern to fabric, and I draw in a seam allowance border of 5mm around every piece. I'm using a coated fabric here that doesn't fray, so I don't need to use any fray check, but I did later on try the pattern using a medium weight cotton instead, and I treated the edges when I cut them. Here are all 8 pieces cut out. You might have wondered why everything's white so far. Where are the Mardi Gras colours? Well, I saw an opportunity to try something out with this project, mixing up fabric paint to create a gradient specific to my scheme and scale. I'm using these acrylic paints, purple, green, and a silver paint that I'm going to add some gold pigment to because I don't have any gold paint. And I'm combining them with this Daler-Rowney textile medium, roughly equal parts of each, to make a fabric paint that stays flexible once dry. I do a little test of each colour first, and I try out a smooth gradient from purple to gold to green. And it looks good, so I'm going to go straight on to painting my pattern pieces. It's looking good. I watered down the paint a smidge so the blend is nice and the colours are subtle. Now I could go over them all with a second coat, but if I'm honest, I'm impatient to see how it feels once it's dry and I really want to get sewing. I got a new Singer sewing machine from my mum on my birthday. Thank you, Mum! And I'm desperate to get into it. Pow! I have let it dry and then leapt into assembly. All I've done so far is join one at a time with the right sides together as I sew each of the sections along with its neighbour. So this leaves the two rear opening panels open at either side. Next, I'll top stitch along each of these seams, while pressing the seam allowance on the inside away from the centre front, towards the back. This will make the seam allowance lie flat, which will help the corset to hold its shape. I should have also snipped at the seam allowance on my curves here, but I forgot. Here are a couple of the top stitched seams done. I'm doing these by hand using a back stitch to make a nice solid line of stitching. I'm using a single strand of metallic gold embroidery thread. Now I've done the rest of them, I grab a bag of ribbons and I'm contemplating shoulder straps and a gold strip sewn down the centre front. I think the ribbons are too yellowy, so I decide to use a thin strip cut from the fabric I was testing the fabric paint on. I painted a big bit with the gold earlier, so I can measure some 5mm wide strips, and I cut a few of these off to use. You can see the strip that I've sewn to the front centre here, hand stitched with the same gold thread. Next, I'm going to fold over the straight seam allowances at the back two sides, stitching them flat close to the fold. Then I'll snip my curves and fold over the seam allowance along the top of the corset, stitching flat close to the fold again. And I'll do this again for the bottom edge of the corset. This will give me a nice finished edge all around. Here it is so far, being tested on my Blythe. It's looking nice and it's a snug fit all around too. I've looked out some purple tights and thrown together a purple tutu skirt for the occasion as well. Now I'm planning the back lacing closure. I've got some handheld punch pliers that are for leather work. They cut out neat little holes. The smallest it goes is 2mm, but you could instead use a sharp awl to poke these holes out with. I've tested it on my painted fabric here, and I've coupled it with some purple embroidery thread, and it seems like the right size. You could use ribbon if you have it very narrow, and I also considered this gold round elastic, but I worry that it would deform the back seams by pulling too hard. Here you can see that I've gone ahead and punched out the holes in the back of the corset. I used a ruler to decide how far apart to evenly place them, and I was careful not to punch through any of my stitches. Now you could add in some real eyelets at this point. Just be careful not to scratch the back of your doll. I've got some that are just 1.5 millimeters wide. Be sure to use fray check on the holes though if you are using cotton fabric. This fabric won't fray, so I'm just going to leave my punched holes as they are. Now my last decision to make is whether or not I want straps on the shoulders. I do like the matching gold painted fabric straps. So yeah, let's go ahead, cut them to size, and I will just glue them in. There we go, assembly complete. Now before you see the glamour shots, I wanted to let you know that I have created a 4-page digital sewing pattern PDF to go along with this video. It contains the printable pattern that you've just seen, plus a bonus second corset which has a curvier shape and more exaggerated hips. They have both written and photographic step-by-step instructions, and I'm making it available to buy on my website shop. You will find the link down in the description. Now I'm going to set the price very low initially, so I do hope you will go and try it out. I am often asked for sewing patterns, so if this pattern is received well, I will be sure to make one up for each of my own designs in the near future. Alright, let's see how she looks. Thank you all for watching. I do hope you've enjoyed my creation today, and don't forget to check out Tammy and all the other channels joining in on this Mardi Gras themed video collaboration. Thank you for liking, subscribing and commenting. I appreciate your support, and I will see you in the next video. Bye bye!